I don't care who you are, there are days that are not going to go well. There are days where those birds are going to switch it up on you or not listen to anything you're doing. There's days where it's going to be really, really tough to scratch out birds. And if you don't have those days, then you are so lucky and you live in a freaking area that's awesome. But to tell you what, I don't. I don't live in that area. We hunt some of the hardest birds I've ever hunted before. I've traveled a bunch. I've hunted with a ton of different people in a ton of different areas. And these birds around home are some of the toughest birds to hunt. It's nothing for them to pump their wings a little bit and glide off to that other field. It's nothing for them. And we get so much pressure that we have to think outside of the box and start thinking of different ways to make those birds commit. And this was one of those hunts. This was a hunt that we had to go through a process. We had to do a bunch of different calling. We tried calling aggressively. We tried not calling at all. We tried everything in between. And at the end of the day, it came down to the last flock. The last flock that came out of the roost to feed. And I found their trigger. I found the note that they wanted to listen to, that I could elicit a response out of them. This is what I call a trigger sound. And what I mean by trigger sound is something that's making them react to you. A lot of times it's maybe just a moan or a spit note or something along those lines. Something that you're making a noise and you see them lock their wings. Or you can turn them on a dime with it. And usually it stays the same with each individual flock. And typically, if you find that note that day, you can transfer it to a bunch of different flocks. But this day, we weren't able to find it. We just tried and tried and tried a bunch of different stuff. And this is the note that ended up doing it for us. It's the flying spit note. Well, actually, the sequence was a honk followed by a flying spit note. We had to get super realistic with these birds. They didn't want to hear anything else. So basically, this is the flock.
Good shot, guys.
Now, guys, I know that that shot was really out of frame. I know that you didn't have the best view of it, but there's a reason I picked this video out of all of the other ones I've gotten so far. And that's because we had to overcome an insane amount of adversity in order for us to get these birds. I don't blame the guy that called the shot for calling that shot at all. They were 20 yards over our head. They weren't necessarily in the decoys, but after the day we had, we wanted to take whatever we could get. We made a clean shot and got all three of them in the group. And I really want to emphasize to you guys about that trigger sound. I want you guys to understand that when I'm working a group of birds, when I'm looking at them and I'm seeing them out there flying, I'm going through a process in my mind. I'm going through clucks, moans, quick spits, trains, everything. And I'm looking for those birds to flutter their wings a little bit. I'm looking for them to have some sort of a reaction to the notes I'm making. And once I see that reaction, I've got them. I know that if I see that wingtip flutter a little bit because of a note I made, that I'm going to be able to keep hitting them with that note in order until their feet down in the decoys. And if I do lose them, I can hit that note really, really hard and I can get them to turn around. One of the best notes at this is just the spit note. And basically I'll hit it if I see that wingtip. I'll keep trying to hit it on the way down, but I'll not just rely solely on that note. I'll keep throwing in quick spits, clucks, moans, and all that stuff, but I'll make sure that every couple of notes there's a spit note in there. Well, if they kind of veer off and go off back and around, I'm going to freaking hammer them on that spit note. Just the longest, drawn out, most powerful one you can do. And you'll be amazed how many times that'll turn those birds around. But for this instance, on this day, that was not working for us. And just, I'd gone through that process. I went through every single note I knew. And then I got down to, I was just doing really, really natural honks. The most natural honk I could do. And then that goose made that flying spit note while he was in the air. And I followed it up. I did that honk followed by that flying spit note. And I saw that wing twitch. And I was like, okay, we're on to something here. And I kept doing it. And they kind of went overhead, got a little bit of ways from us. And I hit it a little bit harder. And they veered around and turned right back over us. And when they came over our heads that back time, that's when that shot was called. Could I have worked him around more? I believe so. But again, it was such a hard day. We wanted to take the shots we could get. And in future videos, we're going to go over different ways and different trigger sounds and different things you can do to manipulate that flock. We're going to talk about bumping birds. We're going to talk about how your position in the group of callers can make a difference. Because, for instance, the next video we're going to do is from this past weekend. 4 good callers were on one end of a group of 10 guys. And they kept centering up over us 4. And I realized that the guys at the end weren't necessarily getting the best shots. So what I did is I moved 20 feet down the blinds to a different spot in the big long group of 8-frame blinds. And I started trying to work those birds and trying to bump them. And they started centering up on us. Now, I shouldn't have done that because the guys down there couldn't shoot, and it made our numbers get a lot smaller. I should have stayed down at the other end and just centered them up over the guys that could shoot all day. But we'll talk about stuff like that. We'll talk about different positioning and different ways that you can go about manipulating these flocks. I hope you guys like this video. Subscribe for more stuff to come. We've got a ton of stuff to cover, a ton of different flocks to cover. Hope you guys liked it. Ask me if you got any questions. We'll see you guys later.